From the moment she arrived, the room changed. Even as a baby, her presence softened tempers and her eyes searched faces not for approval but for peace. She could sense when her mother's smile was forced, when her father's silence meant worry. No one taught her empathy. It was the language of her soul. The empathic girl doesn't just hear words, she hears weight. Every tone, every sigh, every shift in mood vibrates through her spirit like a current she didn't ask to carry. She learns early that comfort keeps the family together. When tension builds, she hugs before she even understands conflict. She becomes the peacemaker, the one who feels responsible for balance she didn't disturb. But behind the sweetness lives confusion. Why does caring so much hurt so deeply? Why does everyone unload on her but forget to refill her? Her empathy matures faster than her body. She becomes the adult in rooms filled with grown children. The praise sounds like love, but it's really emotional labor. At school, she sees through facades. She recognizes pain in the loudest bully, sadness behind popularity. But kindness makes her a target, easy to manipulate and easy to blame. Teachers admire her responsibility. Classmates call her too serious. She hides her intuition to avoid being weird. She starts apologizing for existing loudly, shrinking so others feel comfortable. She learns to sense danger, not from threat, but from energy. A friend's betrayal feels like static before it happens. The empathic girl lives on emotional radar, constantly scanning, constantly protecting. At home, she becomes her mother's confidant, her siblings' emotional translator, and her father's silent listener. Adults mistake her maturity for resilience, but she is tired. When she cries, she's told to be strong. When she serves, they say, "You're such a blessing." No one realizes that her giving has become her grief. By her teens, she measures her worth in how much she helps. Love becomes performance. The more she gives, the safer she feels. But deep down, she's afraid. If I stop caring, will they still love me? Society tells her to be kind, but punishes her when she's assertive. She learns that empathy without boundaries becomes self erasure. Every heartbreak teaches her the same lesson. People will drink from her cup until it's dry, then ask why she's empty. She becomes the friend everyone calls but few understand. She senses when someone's lying, yet doubts herself when they gaslight her. Her intuition is loud, her confidence quiet. Eventually, she snaps, not in anger, but exhaustion. She stops fixing everyone's moods. She withdraws not out of bitterness, but self preservation. For the first time, she asks questions like, who takes care of me? What do I want? Not what do they need? Her rebellion is sacred, is the beginning of spiritual autonomy. The empathic girl dreams are not ordinary. She receives messages and symbols, rivers, voices, and even light. She can feel ancestors in her sleep. She can comfort strangers without words. But without guidance, she doubts it all. Religion may call it strange, family may dismiss it. So she hides her spiritual sensitivity, praying quietly, journaling visions she's afraid to speak. Her soul is tuned to frequencies others ignore. When she prays, energy moves. When she forgives, generations heal. As she matures, her empathy evolves into discernment. She learns that saying no is not cruelty, it's sacred protection. She discovers boundaries that keep her heart from leaking. Her gift no longer drains her, it directs her. She becomes the mentor, the counselor, the intuitive woman who moves through life aware and anchored. The empathic girl who once feared being too much realizes she was born with depth. Her softness becomes strategy, her compassion becomes leadership. To every empathic girl listening, you were never too sensitive. You were simply tuned to the truth others run from. The world tried to quiet you because your presence exposes what's false. Protect your gift, rest without guilt, and love without losing yourself. And never apologize for the depth that makes you divine. By the time she reaches adulthood, the empathic woman has become everyone's healer, mother, partner, friend, counselor, and crisis manager. Her life is a map of quiet sacrifices. She remembers every wound she forgave, every apology she never received, and every room she held together when her own spirit was falling apart. She carries generations inside her, not just her emotions, but the ancestral grief of the women before her. That's why her exhaustion isn't laziness, it's inheritance. The empathic woman, adulthood, begins with one realization. She's been trying to save a world that never asked if she was okay. Even when she's not a mother, she mothers. She nurtures coworkers, friends, and lovers. Her instinct is to protect, to pour, to repair. But she doesn't always notice that her empathy has turned into unpaid emotional labor. People come to her for warmth, but rarely stay to refill it. And when she withdraws to rest, they say she's changed. But she hasn't changed. She's awakening. She begins to see that unconditional giving without it coming back in a reciprocal way, with reciprocal respect, is not compassion. It's codependency dressed in virtue. Romantic relationships for the empath woman are emotional universities. She learns the curriculum of love the hard way, through imbalance. She attracts those who take refuge in her light but refuse to build their own. She is drawn to potential, not presence. She feels love deeply, but often ends up nurturing unhealed partners. She doesn't just love people, she rehabilitates them until one day she wakes up realizing she's been teaching people how to love her while neglecting to love herself. And that's when the shift begins. The empathic woman first acts of freedom is saying no without guilt. The second is resting without explanation. And the third is refusing to apologize for not rescuing adults from consequences they created. She stops mistaking exhaustion for purpose, and she learns that boundaries are not walls, they're sacred gates that protect her divine energy. Her empathy evolves from being reactive to being discerning. She no longer absorbs everyone's chaos, she observes it. She no longer sacrifices herself to prove she's good. She honors herself to prove she's healed. In the workplace, she's the unspoken glue. She senses tension before it erupts, offers solutions before she's asked, and carries emotional weight that isn't listed in her job description. Her intuition sees systems, not just tasks, but empathy rarely gets promotions. She watches others climb ladders she built. The empathic woman must learn to redirect her compassion inward, to build her own vision, to own her own brand, her own peace. That's when her career transforms into calling. Her gift stops being exploited and starts being expressed. By her 30s, 40s, or even 50s, she begins to shed identities she outgrew long ago: caretaker, fixer, and pleaser. She starts hearing her soul's true voice again, the one she silenced for survival. She realizes she doesn't owe anyone access, only alignment. This is rebirth. She stops chasing belonging and starts embodying worth. She learns that solitude isn't loneliness, it's a sanctuary. Her empathy now flows with wisdom instead of desperation. She becomes selective with where she places her energy, not because she's bitter, but because she's becoming sacred. The empathic woman eventually understands that her life is a correction to the silence of generations before her. She's breaking cycles her mother normalized and her grandmother endured. When she says no to emotional abuse, she's freeing an entire bloodline. When she rests, she's restoring the divine feminine rhythm of restoration over relentless labor. She is the prayer that finally learned boundaries. Her peace is not rebellion, it's redemption. As she ages, she becomes less reactive and more radiant. Her empathy turns into insight. Her discernment becomes protection. She no longer needs to prove her goodness. She simply is goodness. She gives, but from overflow. She helps, but with permission. And she loves, but with clarity. And in her later years, she finally understands. Peace was never meant to be earned. It was meant to be lived. Her softness, once misunderstood, becomes her crown. Her empathy, once exploited, becomes her wisdom. Her life becomes testimony that the healer deserves healing too. To every empathic woman listening, you are not weak for being weary. You are not unlovable for needing rest. And you are not selfish for choosing yourself after years of emotional servitude. You were never meant to save everyone, just to stand in your own light long enough for others to remember theirs. Your empathy was never punishment, it was purpose. And now it's time to live it without apology. Thank you for visiting my channel. Stay covered, stay conscious, stay undefeated. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.